Part of I-70 still shut down tonight outside Golden, hours after a bad crash that involved 3 semi-trucks and a pickup. CDOT still has 2 lanes closed on the eastbound side.
The crash happened around 4 today at the C-470 exit. One of the semis ended mangled up in the median, and the front of the pickup truck was crushed. Colorado State Patrol says 1 person went to the hospital in critical condition. Traffic was backed up for miles tonight. CDOT hasn't said when the eastbound side will fully reopen. Court records show prosecutors are dropping one of the murder charges against a man accused of killing 2 brothers on I-25 during a road rage incident this summer.
Stephen Long's family claims he was just trying to defend himself. Denver police arrested Long back in June. Investigators say 2 men, Damon and Blake Lucas, cut him off on I-25 near 6th Avenue. Long told police they all pulled over. The men walked up to his window and started hitting him. Investigators say that Long shot and killed them both and drove away. Prosecutors charged him with 2 counts of first-degree murder. Today, court records show Denver's district attorney dropped one of those murder charges. Last week, members of Denver City Council sent a letter to the district attorney, Beth McCann, after Long's family came and spoke at a council meeting. The council members asked why Long was charged, but the DA declined to file charges against a white man who shot and killed a 12-year-old boy in a stolen car back in February. We reached out to the DA's office to ask what led to the change in Long's charges. We haven't heard back from prosecutors.
Half of I-25 north of Pueblo is back open tonight, 3 days after 30 train cars came crashing down onto the highway, killing a truck driver. CDOT reopened the southbound side of the highway this afternoon, and they expect the northbound side to reopen tomorrow. Today, we learned the railroad inspected the tracks just hours before this crash. Federal investigators say a rail line was broken, and that may have caused the derailment. BNSF says its employees inspected the rail multiple times in the last 3 months, including different forms of testing. Though the railroad didn't say exactly what kind of testing it did on the Sunday before the coal train went off the tracks, crushing truck driver LaFollette Henderson underneath. BNSF says it's going to replace the bridge over the highway.
Police in Arvada say that they have arrested 2 teenagers who robbed a liquor store and got into a shootout with an employee. This happened back in August at LaGuardia Liquors near 80th and Sheridan. Police say the teenagers walked in, pulled guns, and robbed the place. They shot the clerk. The clerk shot at them, and one of the teenagers ended up hurt. They arrested him a few days later. Now have arrested the second teenager. Police say they are both out on personal recognizance bonds, facing charges for armed robbery.
Aurora police are looking for the person who stabbed 2 men to death Monday night. The stabbings happened near East Colfax Avenue and Lima Street. Police say they found 44-year-old Desmond Thomas lying in the street near the intersection. Officers then found 58-year-old Otto Washington on East Colfax. Both victims died at the hospital. Police say they detained 2 people of interest, but neither was arrested for the stabbing. If you have any information, call Metro Denver Crime Stoppers.
An expansion of one of Denver's most innovative efforts to help people in crisis got off to a slow start. Tonight, the nonprofit in charge says it's the city that's to blame. 9 News reporter Cole Sullivan takes us inside the struggle to expand the STAR program.
Denver's new STAR expansion is finally up and running. Frustration over getting it there still simmers.
We did not struggle finding the appropriate community partners. I think we struggled with the city.
Ana Vizoso works at the nonprofit Servicios de la Raza. The city gave them $2.3 million last year to expand the STAR program, which sends EMTs and trained mental health clinicians instead of police to help people experiencing behavioral crises.
After the STAR vans respond to calls, then individuals are able to be connected to longer-term community resources, and that's where Servicios comes into play.
The city tasked Servicios with organizing community partners to provide people in crisis with resources in their language and in their part of town.
We are here to serve our community.
But she says Servicios wasn't allowed to tell the community about it, and complains the city forced the organization to prove the partners it picked were up to the task, slowing down efforts to get people help.
We had an implementation period where we were faced with barriers from the previous Hancock administration in the city.
A city spokesperson says they're not sure what Servicios is talking about. They say standard procedure requires partners to sign contracts, but they don't know anything about prohibiting the organization from raising awareness.
And I think we successfully were able to overcome some of those barriers and be able to provide direct client care.
Vizoso and the city do agree the expansion is in a good place now. Its future depends on how well it keeps going.
And so we're hopeful that we will be able to continue to partner with the city in providing these services.
At stake in this squabble is not just the future of the program, but also money. City Council advanced an expansion of the contract with Servicios to make up for some of the lost time, but it won't decide whether to add more money to it until the nonprofit provides data showing its efforts are helping.
Cole, it's discouraging to hear about those stumbles because this program was so admired by people inside and outside Denver.
And we heard that from city council members when they advanced that expansion. They want this program to succeed. And I think it's important to recognize both Servicios and the city have the same goal here, which is helping people. The way of making that happen is where some of this frustration lies.
All right, Cole Sullivan, thank you.
Testimony resumed today in the trial of the third officer charged in the death of Elijah McClain. Suspended Aurora police officer Nathan Woodyard is charged with reckless manslaughter. Today, a medical expert testified that McClain was dying long before he was injected with ketamine. Woodyard was the initial officer who stopped McClain after a 911 caller reported that he was wearing a ski mask and acting sketchy. McClain was not armed and he was not breaking any laws. Dr. David Buther of National Jewish Health said when Woodyard put McClain in a neck hold and other officers restrained him, it caused a series of medical issues that left him fighting to breathe. Dr. Buther testified Elijah was continuously breathing in his own vomit, while officers never removed his ski mask nor checked his vitals. Dr. Buther says ketamine was the last thing Elijah needed in his condition.
If the goal is restraint, he's restrained. If the goal is sedation, he's sedated. He's already kind of not very with it. So he's floppy fish on a path to dying unless somebody intervenes aggressively. He needs a hospital. He's a sick patient that needs immediate care with what looks like some life-threatening problems. So just that gestalt that you have of, is this patient sick or not? Do they need attention, and how quickly? He needs urgent attention in a hospital right now.
Dr. Buther says Elijah presented hypoxia, low levels of oxygen, acidosis, high levels of acid in the blood, and aspiration, in this case drowning in his own vomit. These symptoms were present before the ketamine. Woodyard's trial will continue in the morning and is expected to last a few weeks, and that'll be followed directly by two paramedics who are set to go on trial in November.
Xcel Energy is getting $100 million from the federal government to try and make sure that its equipment does not start wildfires. It's part of a multi-billion-dollar investment through the infrastructure package passed in 2021. Xcel is contributing $142 million to this work, which is planned in Colorado and 4 other states. Xcel is supposed to use the funds to bury power lines underground, to clear trees that could hit its lines, to test how well its equipment holds up to strong winds, and to make some other retrofits that could stop power lines from starting fires. Xcel is still facing lawsuits related to the Marshall Fire. Investigators in Boulder County blamed Xcel's power lines for starting one of 2 fires that merged into a mega fire that day at the very end of 2021. Xcel insists that its equipment did not start a fire and said that even if it did start a fire, the other part of the fire was already burning homes. Well, there's a sign of the season. Rocky Mountain National Park has officially closed Trail Ridge Road for the winter. Trail Ridge Road is the highest continuous paved road in the U.S. Climbs higher than 12,000 feet. Roads closed at the park's curve on the east side of National Park and at the Colorado River Trailhead. Usually reopens during the last week of May, Danielle, when the snow is up to the top of the sticks.
Isn't that wild to see? I feel like the seasons have been changing up in the mountains, but not down here.
Yeah, I absolutely true.
I mean, like, where's fall? We are still in the summer season. Of course, we had that cold front swing through. It helped to cool us off a little bit today, but still is pretty comfortable in the lower 70s. Temps tonight dropping off into the 50s here for the metro area, 45 in Sterling, similar setup out there in Ray, 40s and 50s up into the mountains. And look at this 24-hour temperature drop that we have seen. 21 degrees cooler tonight in Akron than where we were last night, 15 degrees cooler out there in Burlington, and of course, Denver, a whole lot cooler than yesterday. We saw a high of 85, middle of October. Wild. That storm system that helped to cool us off. Tracking off to the east, we're making way for another ridge of high pressure to build back in. You know the drill. That's going to warm us up and dry us out as we look ahead toward tomorrow and into the weekend too. Tomorrow temperatures soaring back close to about 80 degrees. And then I have some sunshine on deck for the weekend. Do we have any storms in sight for the metro area? I have the answers in my 7-day forecast when I see you in just a few.